In today's episode, I'll be talking about a blizzard that hit New York City on Christmas Day 2002, and I was there. And I was there with my Super Ikonta, that's right. And I was silly enough to be walking around this blizzard. I've scanned in some contact sheets, and that's what you're looking at right now. It was a state of emergency, essentially. It was absolutely horrific. They told people not to leave their homes. Of course, I was a very enthusiastic 21-year-old, and I walked just straight into that blizzard, didn't I? I had a couple of rolls of film, had my little Ikonta here, and yeah, I think I got some pretty cool stuff. Some of these photos I probably wouldn't take now in the kind of way I work as a 43-year-old man. Like this lovely couple here having a smooch in the freezing cold snowstorm blizzard, and up I walk and my giant Metz flash, and obviously just flashed them. You can see from the contact sheet there was just one go at that, but there we go, that was the shot. And again, the snow looks kind of cool, doesn't it? That's the one fun thing about using flash in any kind of weird elemental condition like rain or snow, is like the way it looks. So if you look at this photograph here, it's literally just a massive, massive blizzard. And you know, my flash, as well as sort of, you know, lighting up the path and what's going into the background, any snow that was very near my lens, very near me, it looks massive because the flash has frozen it, and boom, you know, it's made it look giant. Some of the photos are a bit hit and miss, like what's going on here. I can see in the background there was some kind of like Christmas lights and car. My flash didn't quite reach that. Funny doggy in the snow. This guy looking at me like, what are you doing, dude? What are you doing? And I think my mum reminded me I was literally walking around wearing like a corduroy jacket. I didn't even have a winter coat on. I think I had like a woolly hat, and that was it. This photo is kind of nice. I kind of like this one. It looks quite mysterious. It's what I could say is quite experiential. It kind of feels like you're there. And again, I kind of like this one of the tree. I have no idea. I'm guessing that's a church. It says Grace. So if you know any church around Union Square area of New York that's called Grace something, I'm guessing that's the church. I have no clue, but I'm guessing that's where it was. So yeah, this is probably one of my favourite portraits that I managed to snap, kind of walking around in the blizzard. And it's this guy, and he's got this giant red kind of machine. It seems very American, doesn't it, for an individual, a public citizen, to own some kind of crazy snow clearing contraption. And that's what he's got here. An advert for Gap Kids in the snow, and then this weird kind of blurry light kind of anomaly and what is going on there. Here is this guy kind of, I scanned it in a bit better and I flipped him around, and you see my flash has illuminated him, so you can see him clearly. But what you're also getting is the flash has fallen away enough to be darkness behind. You can see the car in the background caked with snow, and also that freezing of the flash has frozen those lines of snow. And there's something very cool that happens when you photograph snow in this way, which I'll show you in a minute in a later photograph, which is actually this one. So yeah, this is the shot here, and it looks amazing, doesn't it? And essentially what's going on is, because I'm using a very, very old 1950s medium format film camera with a very old Metz flash, it's all fully manual. The trick is with those flashes and these cameras is basically the flash syncs on the opening of the shutter. So what that means is you take, let's say I was doing kind of a slightly long exposure, say at a 15th of a second, trying to get as much ambient light as possible in that dark street scene. The flash froze the snow as it first appeared, but then it sort of blurred with that longer exposure. And that's what gives this weird effect where the snow literally looks like it's flying up. And there's a photographer I've seen doing a lot of this recently with rain, and I think he does some snow as well. It's a great photographer called Al Bryden. And yeah, man, some of his photos, obviously this is kind of trick that he's doing as well. And it's just this nice idea of kind of, you know, not having your camera set to use the flash on the second curtain, but having it on the first curtain. That's how that happens. Looks pretty dope though, right? Yeah, cool. So it wasn't all just kind of wandering around in the snow, trying not to die. And one thing I want to point out, right, when that snow was falling, I knew, because I was a bit of a fanboy, that the Magnum Photo Agency was having their AGM meeting in New York at that moment in time, somewhere in Manhattan. And as a young man, I loved the idea that I'd be wandering around in the snow photographing, and there would be the Magnum photographers out in the snow as well. Real photographers. Of course, I didn't see any other photographers because it was like a state of emergency. I think everyone else was just trying to survive. But I had to get out there, had to get my snow photos. So here we go. So this is a contact sheet, I think, the next day. And look at that scene. Look at that lovely scene. Now, I know it's like a banging cliche, right? I know it's like the rooftops of New York, and I think it's the Chrysler building in the background. And I just love it, though. I just love it. You see the snow on the rooftops. It just looks nice, doesn't it? All those water towers, kind of cool. Again, I believe that building in this photograph was actually the New York University dorms. I think it's part of the New York City University. And again, I just always liked the way the sun was reflecting off that window in the top left of the shot and the tree with a bit of snow on. Again, kind of fun. And also this weird dark silhouette here. Like, was that a dude? What is that? It's a shadow of that thing, but yeah, it looks kind of mysterious. I did visit Ground Zero. I'm thinking some of the graffiti might have been to do with Ground Zero. This was just walking through one of the underground stations. It might have been Grand Central, but I just loved the guy. This guy was kind of leaning cross-legged and everyone was kind of filing past him and going through, and he was like this like kind of weird gatekeeper character just there. I know, wacky stories that no one else is going to see in a million years, but you know, to me he was some kind of weird gatekeeper, people going past. And then here you've got two shots here of a choir, and you can see, you know, I'm learning, so one of the exposures was a bit more ambient light, and it made all of the, like a longer, like slower shutter speed, and it made all the light in the background a lot brighter. Whereas you can see by the next shot, I sort of darkened it down a little bit, and yeah, that seems to be the better shot. The flash is not so bright, and you can see enough of an illumination to light up the stars floating in the background. So this is a fun one in Central Park, and there's a guy like swinging his kid on a little seat, And this is a funny shot. So look, right, I was a student at the time, and I went back and I showed one of my professors who was like super conceptual fine art professor. And he was like, "What are you doing? Why you stood against the fence like that?" And I had to explain to him, like, that wasn't me. And it was a really weird conversation, because at that time I think, you know, you weren't allowed to photograph other people. You only photographed yourself performing or that kind of jazz. There's a cool shot here of a guy, and he's kind of inspecting like a pine tree, and I just remember sort of stumbling across him, just taking one snap. People thought, what the hell is this guy doing? And then off I went, carrying on. Some dude sunbathing here, again, kind of a wacky Central Park moment here. The guy just, what's he doing? Just, I don't know, catching some rays in the snow. This lady was nice, and obviously, like, the funny thing is, right, at this point, I'm like a young dude, and I look young. So I think, was I 21? I was 21, but I looked way younger. And there's this endearing thing when you're a kid and you're running around photographing, people seem to be a lot more open to you, less sort of friend, because you're not some old weird dude. So it's kind of fun seeing her reaction there. Yeah, I don't know, this shot's an oddity. I just like the way at that moment in time the guy was walking past a space with his dog. And it's just like there were no trees there was no moss or whatever was growing on the building, just this negative space. Woman like skiing through Central Park as you do, and some cool buildings in the background. I didn't realise at the time, I was like, that's a pretty rubbish picture, why'd I do that? And look, you can actually see there's a dog kind of lunging forward and a squirrel running off. Again, ain't going to win any awards, but you can see I was trying to get the moment, but trying to get a moment with an ancient rangefinder medium format camera, it took me a little while to do. And at this point, I wasn't quite there yet. Look at this set, this little triptych here, this is really cool. And sometimes this is funny, the way photos can appear on a roll of film. So look, I shot this guy walking along, I don't know what's up with him, but he was pointing. Is that pointing? The next shot is like this guy who's like dressed like Superman in a cowboy hat selling watches. And it's almost like this guy is pointing at this guy. But then look, it's like there's a third person. I never realized it, but yeah, something's happened with my flash, the exposure's terrible. It's like a security dude. But look at his eyes. I mean, I know this is a really low-res scan of my contact sheet, but look at his eyes. What's going on there? That's pretty wacky, isn't it? But yeah, sometimes it's funny when you kind of get natural triptychs. So in a weird way, the guy pointing, the Superman and the mysterious security guard, it's kind of a natural triptychs of portraits. Now below here, which I'm not going to show you, just down here, just there, is probably the greatest photograph I've ever taken in my life. And yet I've rarely ever shown it to anyone. It's literally this amazing example of a coincidence that I photographed in the snow on Christmas Day, and I'm not going to show you it. And I don't plan to show anyone it until the time is right. But for now, it exists. And it's like my Dorian Gray. I don't know why I really believe in it so much, and I know how good it is. I know what it is I caught. And yet, yeah, for whatever reason, how many years now? Still 22 years, nearly 23 years, and I've yet to really share that photograph. I know, what am I doing? But anyway, there we go. That's what it's like being me. So there we go. Enjoy the rest of your Christmas, feast and be merry. And if there's some mad snowstorm, remember to stick your flash on your wacky old medium format camera and get out in the streets in the dark, because you never know, you might bump into a Magnum photographer, or maybe not.